Tigers perform a certain ecological function. They are apex predators and therefore they should be in the forest. The ultimate goal is to protect forest, and tiger is a representation. And we, as a flagship species, we can actually garner a lot of support for forest conservation by saving tigers. Tiger is not out of danger. So right, even today, although we have the maximum number of tigers in India, it is very conservation dependent. The numbers increase inside a tiger reserve, they immediately try to move out. And if there is no forest outside the tiger reserve, then there is going to be conflict. Immediately, those tigers are either killed or they are caught, they are put in the zoos or in some rescue center. That does not serve the purpose. So until and unless we have a policy decision to expand or at least network our tiger reserves through wildlife corridors, it's going to be a difficult future for tigers. The numbers increase inside a tiger reserve, they immediately try to move out. And if there is no forest outside the tiger reserve, then there is going to be conflict. Immediately, those tigers are either killed or they are caught, they are put in the zoos or in some rescue center. That does not serve the purpose. So until and unless we have a policy decision to expand or at least network our tiger reserves through wildlife corridors, it's going to be a difficult future for tigers. So this continuous protection and trying to keep the forest intact and trying to keep the tigers alive, it's a continuous process. And if this protection is removed, the next moment tigers are going to die. So
that was a wonderful presentation at a time when we as humans have very little respect for any other species on earth other than ourselves and not even our own fellow beings. You working in this field and sharing so much information, bringing in so much awareness. Thank you so much. Thank you, Trishant and the entire team for such a wonderful talk. And yes, with this, we'll move on to the Q&A. Mr. Vasant Garu, please unmute yourself.
Thank you very much. It was a wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
So many things, and you have enlightened us. I'm only just mentioning a few things about on my own. You see, you mentioned about number of tigers in India, 3,682, the largest in the world, and we are proud of it. Unfortunately, some tigers are being killed in border areas of due to human men and animal conflicts.
Yes.
One way of avoiding this is supplying food in their habitats. That is the best thing that we can do. One example, just yesterday, a tiger came very near to Mysore, to a village, and it carried away a dog. And we are also having a problem with stray dogs in cities. Please don't mistake. I'm a lover of dogs, and I have 2 dogs with me. I suggest that we round up all the stray dogs in urban areas, subject them to veterinary and medical checkup, and that they are healthy, and make an announcement to the public saying that we have so many dogs. Please come and take it, and your details will be noted, and you should never leave them onto the streets again. That is one condition. And then you can make the government responsible to have a dog pound and give them food and other things. CSR, corporate social responsibility, people can fund those things for food, and then even then there will be excess dogs. So best thing is just round them up and take them to deep forests and leave them alone. There are wild dogs also in the forest. They hunt them also. This is one way of supplying food to the, I don't know to what extent it is possible. It is possible, but whether we will be able to completely satiate those wild animals with this kind of a food supply. Second thing is like elephant training. We can also train the tigers, and because circuses are having tigers, trained tigers, so we can request people to take them, those trained tigers, and feed them at home. And the third one is it is possible to export them because there are so many countries which had tigers long time ago. Now, because of these problems, many forests are disappearing, our habitats are disappearing. So the number of tigers in the forests have become very less in those countries. If they are interested, let's export them. Let them also have, and let those people in those countries also have look at the tigers. So these are some of my suggestions. Thank you, Shivariji and Trishant. It's a wonderful thing you are doing, and please continue. Can I have your views, man, on this, ma'am?
Thank you, sir. So one thing is, I mean, the dog issue is quite controversial. I'm a dog lover, and so I wouldn't really like to. I mean, I have different views on this. But what is more important from an ecological point of view is that humans, dogs, domestic animals, we have evolved in a different way. We are exposed to a different type of food and medicine which wild animals are not exposed to. So by feeding, even if I accept your situation, your suggestion, if by feeding domestic dogs to wild animals, we are actually going to create chaos because there's going to be a spread of diseases from the domestic landscape into the wild landscape. That is number one. Second thing is, as I said, it's not about tiger numbers. Tigers perform a certain ecological function. They're apex predators, and therefore they should be in the forest. The ultimate goal is to protect forest, and tiger is a representation. And we, as a flagship species, we can actually garner a lot of support for forest conservation by saving tigers. And therefore, the suggestion that we keep tigers at home or keep them as trained animals or in captive condition, then it doesn't really perform what it actually is meant to perform. And exporting tigers to other countries, yes, there are reintroduction programs underway. There are countries which do want tigers from India, but there are reasons we need to see why did those countries lose their tigers in the first place? Like, for example, Cambodia or other places, they do not have tigers right now. Even China, I think the South China tiger is officially declared as extinct. The habitat exists, but tigers were heavily hunted in these places. So unless the international market, the demand for tiger body parts is not controlled, sending our tigers there is actually a death sentence. They're going to be hunted. So unless certain measures are taken and the country has a commitment to save these tigers and bring back the habitat, they have to build up the prey base which is required for tigers. All animals are hunted. It's not just tigers. So they have to build up the prey base, and then we can definitely reintroduce tigers. Habitats exist, but there are other reasons why tigers went extinct in these countries, and those have to be addressed carefully. Thank you,
I
sir.
agree, ma'am. Wonderful. Thank you for the reply.
Mr. Shmuel, would you like to ask your question? Please unmute yourself.
Yeah, thank you very much. Very, very interesting presentation about tigers, a very important subject. And I want to ask you a question. How, according to your opinion, protecting forest corridors, tigers can support ensuring food security? How this can support resolution problems of poverty and problems of food insecurity?
I am sorry, I did not.
I'll just repeat the question for you. Sir wants to know how protecting the forest corridors for tigers can support problems of food security and poverty.
Okay. Yes, this is a complicated, this complication does exist, especially in India, where, or Actually, if you see in the tropics or anywhere where we have very high biodiversity and forests, we also have the most poorest people living in those areas. So there is definitely a challenge here that if we want to save our forests, how do we also ensure that the people around are provided for? But I think what we need to understand here is, if you remember from my presentation, tiger reserves in India, we have 58 tiger reserves. They cover only 2.3% of the Indian landmass. So there are a lot of other areas which can be developed. There is a lot of barren land which can be developed. We can have plantations and other things, but forest should be left alone because that's a very small percentage what is available right now. And I don't think we should exploit it any further.
Ma'am, I have a question here. Previously, it seems the laws in the forest department were very stringent, where people could not occupy it. But now they've changed the terminology, so it can be given for growing certain kinds of timber or other things.
So I think there are different categories of protection, levels of protection. Like in the tiger reserve, no human activities allowed. You cannot actually harvest anything from the forest. But there are territorial forests or reserve forests where humans do stay. And the history of India is such that we never really had virgin forests. Ever since humans came into India, they have spread out, and people have co-lived. I mean, they cohabited landscapes with animals. It is just that now, with our increasing population, and we are becoming more intolerant to animal presence. But for several centuries, people have lived with animals in the past, and they have extracted produce from the forest. It's nothing new that we are taking things from forests. It's just that the exploitation is on a much bigger scale now. Earlier, it was smaller.
Mr. Smell, I just thought I just wanted to share a few of my thoughts on the question you had asked. As ma'am has said, Indians had originally coexisted in the forests. Humans have actually coexisted in the forests. It is this new ideology about wealth, and only if you have land, if you're farming, or if you're making money, is wealth, is what has been moving a lot of tribals, a lot of people who have coexisted, to exploit the forests in the wrong way. Environment has been exploited. If we do not touch those people, whether through religion, whether through ideology, a lot of forests could have still been protected and can still be protected. And the terminology, the description of poverty and underprivileged is very different from the West and the East. So your idea of poverty and underprivileged for those living in forest areas is very different. In India, it's not considered as poverty if you're living in a village and you're happy, and you're living in a forest area and you're happy. And in fact, the knowledge that they possess is immense, whether it is on leaves, whether it's on fauna or flora. It's huge, and it needs to be protected. Their habitats need to be protected. And yes, I don't know if I was clear enough to answer your question. Mr. Schwell?
Yeah. Thank you very much. And I have more one short question. I want to ask how government and authorities in India supporting resolution problems of protecting forest corridors for tigers.
How is the government of India taking action to protect the forests of tiger reserves?
Yeah, of course.
I think they have done a phenomenal job. The forest department and the conservationists have done a phenomenal job in India, in spite of all the pressures, all the developmental work actually happening in this country. We manage, the forest officers, starting right from the beat guards to all the officers, they have been successful in protecting tigers. And this international market for tiger body parts it's a big problem. I have also worked on tiger forensics, and we know that cases come from all sides, and officers are trying hard to keep our tigers alive. So it's a phenomenal achievement that we have managed to keep. But tiger is not out of danger. So right, even today, although we have the maximum number of tigers in India, it is very conservation dependent. If this protection is removed, the next moment tigers are going to die. So this continuous protection and trying to keep the forest intact and trying to keep the tigers alive, it's a continuous process. And I really salute our officers for that.
Is there any sections or law that pertains to this?
Sorry.
Any, as per the legal code, what are the sections?
Yes. So I'm not very well versed with the sections and all that, but tigers are it's a Schedule 1 species. It has the highest level of protection in India, and if anybody is caught with the tiger body part, and if the investigation is done properly, the maximum penalty can go up to 7 years of imprisonment along with fine and all that. So it is a very well protected species.
Yeah.
I understand that in spite of all this, it is difficult to implement law in India sometimes, and sometimes the evidence is not very concrete and people do get away with crime, but the law is there. We do have all the required machinery in place.
Yes. Is your question answered, please?
Yeah, of course. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Venkat Subramaniam, please, can you proceed?
Yeah, very good morning. Firstly, very thoughtful and excellent presentation by ma'am, and I seriously appreciate the effort she has put in to bring this presentation to us. And I would just briefly describe myself. I'm a banker, but at the same time a wildlife enthusiast, and particularly with a keen interest in birding. So I keep moving around trying to find new birds. And so what really concerns me is that firstly I really agree with ma'am that the forest guards and the wildlife guards, and they have been very key, played a key role in the tiger conservation. And over the last few years, from the time I have started visiting these wildlife sanctuaries, I have seen that their role is very critical and important in conserving, in this ensuring that this tiger conservation program continues. But at the same time, what concerns me is this: a lot of photographers, avid photographers of these travel agencies, who have suddenly come up with a lot of interest in taking big photos of a tiger, in a way that it has become a commercial activity now. And what I am seeing is that what is a hobby for many people, including me, be it a birding or be it visiting such beautiful sanctuaries, it's become an obstruction to the keen lovers. Now it has become a commercial activity, and it's become a booming business kind of for them, and they charge like hell from people who don't have really very keen knowledge about how to behave in these kind of environments also. I mean, we've see people, I mean, I have come across people during my recent visit to Tadoba shouting when they see a tiger. I mean, and then you blame the animal for going reckless or chasing a car or a vehicle. You can't really blame them. It's their habitat, and you are entering there trying to get some fun out of it. But that should not be the case. Although forest guards do tell well in advance, but as I said, many are not informed and they just come out of pleasure, out of to have some fun. But that should not be the case, and it's very important that the government steps in and introduces the rule where the charges are capped, and at any point of time, any jeep safaris, the number of people in that jeep should be limited, and it should not be filled to capacity, because the more the people, this habitat is going to get disturbed. And the same is the case with the birding birds. I've seen birds, over the last couple of years at least, especially during the migratory season, they just move off because there are a lot many people trying to just take pictures and take clicks and with flashes on, etc. And this is a disturbing trend, in which some government needs to do something to stop this, and to ensure that the really the people who are very enthusiastic about it, who are really supportive of this activity, should be encouraged, rather than encouraging these travel agencies who are making a business out of it.
Sir, quick question. Are you an author?
No, I'm not an author. As I said, I'm a banker, but I have a keen interest in these areas, and obviously, I go there with a clear picture that I, from my end, should not make any noise, and we ensure that me and my wife are the only people in the jeep, so that there is bare minimum disturbance, or for that matter, zero disturbance whenever we enter such habitats.
Yes, sure. Thanks for sharing your thoughts on etiquette while being in the tiger's habitat. Is there a question you would also like to answer, or move
No,
on?
this was a question. I mean, what can be really done? I mean, to
I think
yeah.
the Supreme Court is taking cognizance of this problem of wildlife tourism, especially in tiger reserves. So hopefully things will improve. Indian tourists in general, I think world over, Indian tourists have to learn how to behave. So that's one thing. Even I've noticed this, that when people go to tiger reserves on a holiday, or obviously it's a holiday with family, they are not interested in seeing anything except tiger. And that is the sad fact about this wildlife tourism, that people come back unsatisfied, and they actually there are cases where they have abused the driver and the guide of their vehicle because they have not been shown a tiger. So this is a issue. I mean, this is general awareness. People have to be aware that tigers are beautiful. Of course, people would love to see a tiger, but there is much, much more to a forest than tigers. And it would be better if they paid attention to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Ma'am, please unmute yourself, Ms. Putul. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am, for a wonderful presentation. It was very insightful. I am a communications and fundraising professional working on climate action. So I get to read a lot of topics that are working on the intersection of tiger conservation. One of them is lantana and the widespread of lantana in tiger habitats. I want to understand how the conservation efforts are actually also looking at the factors that are inside the wildlife corridors and that they are affecting tiger population. And if I could ask a second question as well, we are doing good in terms of increasing the number of tigers in our country, but considering the aspirational development plans of our country, how far can we take these numbers in the future? Thank you, ma'am.
So I am not a hands-on conservationist in the ground. I mean, I'm more of a lab person. I'm a molecular biologist, and therefore this lantana question I think would be better addressed by a manager, or actual real forest manager, on how to handle this problem. It is we do have a lot of invasive species in India, and we are struggling with these problems. But frankly, I think our officer would be better position to answer this question. And the second question was about developmental activities and increasing tiger numbers. As I told you, the primary focus is about protecting forests. We have to be clear that we want to protect our forest, because there are several, I mean, we get a lot of benefits from a forest. There are several services which these forests provide us, right from water, air. Forests produce everything. We harvest so many things from a forest, and forests are essential for our survival. So first and foremost is this decision that yes, we want to protect our forests, and we want to expand or at least conserve what is present today. If that is done, I think there's sufficient habitat for tigers to survive. Tigers are very resilient. They come back very easily, even from places where they went locally extinct. They can very rapidly come back. The populations can grow. But what is important is presence of a good forest cover and and a prey base.
Ma'am, what is the situation of forests in Andhra, Telangana, Karnataka?
So yes, we are losing forest cover everywhere for development. That is the situation. It's a sad fact, but outside Tiger Reserve, the conservation is not in a good condition. I think, yeah.
Mr. Arun Bikash Das, will the number of tiger reserves be increased in India in the near future? Will the tiger population of India go beyond 5,000 by 2030?
That is possible only if we can balance out. Because right now, I think one of the questions I just glimpsed was about the problems around Tadoba. So there is the moment tiger numbers increase inside a tiger reserve, they immediately try to move out. And if there is no forest outside the tiger reserve, then there is going to be conflict. Immediately, those tigers are either killed or they are caught, they're put in the zoos or in some rescue center. That does not serve the purpose. So until and unless we have a policy decision to expand or at least network our tiger reserves through wildlife corridors, it's going to be a difficult future for tigers.
Mr. Shiva Kumar Natarajan, please unmute yourself.
Hello.
Yeah.
Thanks for the wonderful presentation, ma'am. And my question is, there are states or there are some of the states where the talks are going on for banning the safaris in the tiger reserves. And I have received a mixed reaction. Somebody saying that banning the safaris is good for the wildlife, and somebody says that it's always increases the poaching. So I would like to know from the expert, what is your opinion on this?
So tourism inside Tiger Reserve is restricted to 20% of the core area. That's the maximum of the core area where tourism can be allowed. So the tourism actually playing a role in controlling poaching is questionable. Of course, tourists create a lot of hue and cry when they do not see a tiger. So when tiger numbers go down in a particular tiger reserve and tourists continuously do not get to see tigers, then of course they create a lot of noise, and that leads to awareness that probably there is a problem. But there are other mechanisms by which poaching, people are already operating on that. There are mechanisms in place to control poaching. So tourists being responsible for controlling poaching, I personally do not agree with this. And my personal opinion, tourism should be restricted in tiger reserves because the disturbance is quite high presently.
Okay. Thanks, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Kaushik Malik, will you please ask your question?
Thank you very much, ma'am, for your nice presentation.
Thank
and
you.
Johar, I'm from Jharkhand, and it is the place Palamu. I am belonging to Palamu. In 1932, first tiger census for the first time in the world was undertaken in Palamu, and again it is one of the 9 tiger reserves in 1973-74. Palamu Tiger Reserve was established. So I am very lucky. My concern, it is great to know that more than 75% tigers are in India. My concern or my understanding, I'm not posing any challenge. The census mechanism from pug mark to now it is DNA level. So any further technological development, participatory mechanism, what should be the progress, what should be the research, whether it is going on or it is needing. I am not talking about the number of showing to be more. It might be we are getting it lower side. So what is the authenticity or the mechanism that is being undertaken by government or the forest department? It is full. Thank you.
So for the tiger census, I think now the protocols are fairly well established. Of course, there will be some level of error here and there, and DNA is not really used for tiger census. It's more of camera trap results which are used. I mean, there are different levels of data which are collected across the country by different states, and then everything is compiled together for an estimation. So in the last tiger census, the minimum number of tigers, if I have the numbers somewhere, I think in the estimation they said was 3,167. And out of that, almost more than 3,000 tigers, 3,090 tigers, if I'm not mistaken, were actually photographed. And then different layers of calculation were put into place, and then they came to this number of 3,682. So as the years pass and as the protocols are improving, the way we are calculating, the way different states and the and NTCA and the Tiger Cell and all of them, the way they are operating, it's getting better, and the results are becoming more accurate. Of course, there are certain places where there is insurgency, where it is difficult to place camera traps, where it is difficult for researchers to go inside and actually collect ground data. Like for example, in Palamu, in places in Chhattisgarh also. So there may be some mistakes there, but I think the concerned researchers and officers are trying to address that problem also.
So, but beside this photography, their skates are also
Yes,
collected.
also collected, but that is not used. That is used for identifying whether tiger is present or not.
Tiger is,
It is
yeah,
more presence data rather than an estimation data. So using DNA, we are establishing presence, but it is very difficult to do a population estimation using DNA data.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Stevan, you need to unmute yourself to ask your question.
Good afternoon, ma'am. I have a very small question, and that is all the research that is done and the effort that is put into, bringing up a research paper. When it is handed over to the concerned organizations, authorities,
Voice is not audible. Your voice is
departments,
not audible.
how much of that input actually, am I audible now?
So could you please repeat your Could you please repeat your question? I think there's a network issue. You could also bring off your
Audible now?
I think I got the question. The question is
Okay.
that with all the effort we put into research and whatever we come out with, how much of it is actually accepted by the government and implemented?
And brings about a change wherever it is required.
Yes, of course. So there is a big impact with research because be it forensics, be it for as I told you, even the entire tiger census process, which started, the first report came out in 2006, and now the after the fifth round, we have the report in 2022. There is a lot of research which has gone into how it should be done, what are the improvements which should be put into place, and papers are important so that the researchers who come next can also follow the same thing. You're not trying to reinvent the wheel every time. So already a lot of work is done, and if it is documented, then it becomes easier for the next round. So always, because wildlife research, it is very application oriented, and therefore it has a big impact, and it is of course taken cognizance by the government. Like for example, this paper which I described in my presentation, which was by Sanderson and his group, where he talked about the indigenous map of tigers maybe 9,000 years ago, using a lot of historical data, fossil data. So now we know exactly what was the spread of tigers across Asia. So many of those habitats are still intact. The climate is still the same. And so if we understand what was the problem, why tiger went extinct there, tigers can actually be reintroduced to those places.
Correct.
So such research is very important, and of course it plays a big role in policy decisions.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And I wish you all the best. And hopefully, with your effort and the effort of so many other people, there can be a big change which is required to save not just the tiger, but to save our forests and to save the environment. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Mr. Siddharth Mukherjee, can you?
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. Good afternoon, ma'am. It's been a while since our last meeting at the TEDx. Good to hear your talk as always. One question I had regarding the tiger corridors. So I'm working with the Telangana Forest Department, and over the last 10 years, we've seen tigers follow a very traditional path of migration from both from the east into Telangana and from the west into Telangana via Odisha, the Simlipal Tiger Reserve, and from Tipeshwar, Tadoba Tipeshwar, and then coming into Telangana and going into the Penganga part. So we are trying to get that patch of forest declared as a tiger corridor, valid tiger corridor. I just wanted to ask you, what is the easiest way we can get it done? I mean, I can take it offline with you. There was a second request actually for help. The map you showed earlier in your slide with the yellow lines, right, showing the path of the tiger migration. Do you have something like that for Telangana?
No. So this study was carried out in central India, so
Okay.
only up to Tadoba. But
Okay.
right now, I'm doing a study in the Eastern Ghats, Telangana, Andhra, Orissa. So maybe
Okay.
in the near future, I'll come out with some results about that.
Okay, because I'm heading out into the field tomorrow. I'll be there for the rest of the month. And this is specifically to document the tigers in the Amrabad, NSTR, Kawal Tiger Reserve, and the both parts. So all of it
Okay.
across Telangana, whatever you're talking.
Yeah, right.
So that's why I need it, because Amrabad there are currently 36 and NSTR there are 86 tigers. But obviously they are not. They are the way, you come across tigers in those forests is how it used to be. It's an accidental encounter versus the Central Indian tiger landscape where it's a run-of-the-mill thing. So what I'm trying to do is document the tigers themselves and their paths of migration. So if you have any information, I can reach out to you separately. That will be of immense help to the forest department and to me to figure out how the tigers are moving. So yeah, so going back to my question, going back to my earlier question, is there any notions on how we can get a tiger corridor?
So the only way is tigers come from Maharashtra via Tipeshwar, they come up to Kawal, but they have to establish a breeding population here. So in Kawal, the prey base has to improve. There has to be a breeding population in Kawal. Only then there is going to be a regular movement of tigers between Maharashtra and Telangana. And then, of course, we have to motivate the government to take some action.
No, I'm not talking from a.
Whenever any tiger comes from Maharashtra, immediately there is panic, and then people try to track this animal, catch it. They either send it back to
Tranquilize them.
Maharashtra or they try to drive it towards Kawal. But
Yeah.
whatever we do, the main issue is about establishing a breeding population in Kawal.
Okay, because I'm sorry to continue, but there's a specific observation I have with respect to Kawal versus the path from Tipeshwar into Kawal, coming into Kawal. So NH44 goes right through the middle. Kawal is on the right, and the left is a both forest area, which leads into Penganga and Tipeshwar. I have tracked a tiger. I've documented it in Tipeshwar. He has now made his way because of a conflict. There's a immense male dominating the Tipeshwar landscape now. He's driven out this younger male who's come into the both forest area. And following him, there is a female which has come. So, I'm hoping that these two will settle down there in the both forest area and not move into Kawal, where the prey base is not as well defined as it is in the both area. So we have a pair of tigers, young tigers.
So it depends on the female.
Yeah. So it's a matter of waiting now and hoping that they will mate.
Yes.
But, is there a way I can go about building a case to get this? Kawal is already a tiger reserve. There's no issues there. But the path that exists between.
If you keep documenting it and generating awareness about
I have 10 years worth of data, so if that can.
You should put it up to the government and make a case about this and say that we need better protection in this area. Okay,
because the similar behavior I'm seeing across the Krishna River in NSTR and tigers coming into Amrabad, into Telangana. So it's the same forest as far as they are concerned. The lines are all ours. But the tigers keep swimming across the river to come in and mate. And the domination is more prevalent here versus NSTR, because NSTR is still a fairly substantial tract of forest. But I will reach out to you separately, and hopefully you can share that data that you have. That will help me build the case for getting these tiger corridors and buffer areas, people free effectively. So thank you very much.
What is the situation of the forests in Telangana, Andhra? What is your observation?
There are a lot of religious sites, so it's a very touchy topic. I mean, the Amrabad, so Srisailam, Ahobilam, and then the Seshachalam, the Tirupati area. It is littered with religious sites. So it is a huge challenge to keep these wild spaces inviolate. There is also the problem of tribals. So in the north, we've relocated a few villages from the Kawal Tiger Reserve out into the buffer area, providing them with alternative sources of livelihood as compared to their 100% dependency on the forest now has come down to about 40%, 30%. They're still, because it's their life, it's their lifestyle. So to bring about a change in lifestyle, it is going to take time. Livelihood, we have provided alternative sources. They have access to medical facilities, education facilities, and day-to-day, amenities. Access has improved considerably because there are some villages which were inaccessible. So I've done a short documentary feature on a village, a Gond village, which was abandoned because there was iron content in their solitary well. The water became red. So, the villagers reached out and they said, our Daiva does not want us to stay here. He has turned our water red. So it's a very sensitive, because all these tribes, all the various Gond tribes, the Chenchu, they have very, very deep-rooted, deep-seated religious beliefs connected to the forest. They have. That's why, even in our religious texts, specific trees are mentioned which they can cut, which they can't cut. Right. So it's those, you have to be a little sensitive when addressing those issues. People talk about, the tribal lifestyle. It is not easy because basic food, water is scarce. So whatever we can do without disturbing their lifestyle too much is what is required right now. So conservation has a lot of sensitivities associated with it. Similarly, these forests. So each of these tribal, so I try to document the tribal customs also. And I also work with one NGO to rejuvenate a lot of these wells that are there. So incidentally, one very specific point I'll make there, I've seen a map of the wells and step wells in Telangana and Andhra, which were established by the Kakatiyas, about dating back 800,000 year old. They are all along underground water channels. And if we can, so there are about 80 step wells in Hyderabad itself, of which the Bansilal Pet step well, which I have documented, is very famous. Uh, if we can rejuvenate these step wells, not renovate, rejuvenate these step wells, Hyderabad will not have a water problem. Telangana will not have a flooding problem, right? So there are a number of aspects associated to it. It's a lot to digest and talk about. So, but these are things that I'm doing, and I'm seeing it live on the ground. And that's why, how can we manage the wildlife paths so that, one, human wildlife conflict is mitigated, and two, the animals themselves. It's not just the tiger. I'm not just talking from a tiger perspective. It's across the board. All the wildlife that we have can, go back to, at least to a degree, to the way it used to be.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Is the sexual selection MHC driven?
Yes, sexual selection is MHC driven. I didn't want to get into too much technical details. So we have something called the major histocompatibility complex, which is what which protects us from several infections, simply put. So if the genetic diversity goes down, why are we worried about genetic diversity all the time, even humans or species? The main reason is that it will compromise our immunity. So the more diverse we are, the better equipped we are to fight infections. And therefore, always animals, they are biologically tuned in such a way that they will select a mate who will complement their own diversity, and therefore the offsprings are better equipped to fight infections. Ultimately, the offsprings have to survive. That is the goal. Yes. Thank you.
Vrinda Varma, could you please unmute yourself and list? Yeah.
Ma'am, I am a veterinarian from Uttar Pradesh. I would like to know how can we use universal primer technology in conserving tigers?
Universal primer technology is used in forensic analysis, and it is mainly used in poaching cases and all such issues. So we can use this technology for identifying presence of tigers. If you're talking about poaching cases, you can identify the body parts by using this technology and establish which species it is. Or in the forest also, from biological samples, you can find out which species it is, and therefore establish presence of a particular wild animal in the forest.
Is it being used frequently in our daily purposes, or this is restricted only for some cases?
No. We have a fully operating forensic facility here. My colleague, Dr. Ajay God, he takes care of that facility. And we get several cases, more than, I am not sure of the recent numbers, but maybe more than 300 cases in a year come to CCMB, and these are analyzed using various markers, including the universal universal primers.
Okay, thank you.
Next question is from Vidya Sagar. How much genetic diversity is seen in the tiger population spread across different landscapes in India, such as the Indo-Gangetic plants poplin, Western Ghat poplin population, maybe Central Indian landscape population, Northern Eastern population, and Sundarban population?
So thankfully, because tiger is a widespread species, and it is, in spite of all the problems, it's a survivor. It still tries to navigate landscapes and reach other populations. So even one tiger moving from one population to another in one generation, one tiger moving from one population to another is enough to maintain the genetic diversity. So tigers do move across; they are able to navigate as of now. But some populations, like for example Ranthambore, it is getting isolated. Sariska is isolated, and with all the developmental activities around Sariska, there are problems there. And the southernmost populations, they are, as the tigers go to the south, to the southernmost tip of India. So there the population genetic diversity decreases slightly, but as of now we do not have inbreeding depression. There are signs of inbreeding in some of the isolated population, but we still have a very good genetic diversity.
Ma'am, you said Ranthambore and?
Ranthambore and Sariska in Rajasthan. Sariska tigers had gone extinct. So tigers from Ranthambore were reintroduced there, and now the population is slowly building up. But because there is no connectivity, so the tigers are isolated there, and therefore there is a risk of loss of genetic diversity. But this is a very slow process, and it will affect the animals slowly, not immediate effect.
Okay. Another question from Ms. Silpa Rajivan. Wayanad is in Kerala is tri-junction and ecological corridor of 3 national parks, including Nagarhole and Muthumalai. Though these territories belong to Western Ghats and are rich in resources, there are immense incidents of tigers crossing to human habitats and attacking people. I would like to know your take on this.
So, see, tigers have always been there, and it's only that human numbers are increasing to such an extent, and there are developmental activities around the tiger reserves or protected areas. There is no buffer zone, or there is no, I'm repeating this again and again, there is nothing outside the protected area for the animal to go to. And the tiger behavior is such that you cannot restrict it inside a place. They will move out. And if there is no buffer area or a place where these animals can navigate safely, there is going to be encounter with humans. So it's more than tiger numbers increasing. And everyone is aware of the statistics at which rate human numbers have increased. And we do have a lot of demands and requirements. Yes.
Zoos versus sanctuaries. I think zoos or captive tigers don't help conservation. What are your thoughts on true impact conservation?
Yeah, the animals in captivity do not have an ecological role to play. Simple. They are there more for exhibition, for education purpose. And so if we want the true role of an animal, it has to be free. It has to be in the wild. And that's when it is an apex predator. In the zoo, it is just fed. Whatever we want to feed it, we feed it. So the only role wild animals now can play in captive condition is conservation breeding programs, where animals in the wild, when they become very low in number, There are some conservation programs which are running in captivity, and so these animals can slowly be released back to the wild. So that's the only role captive facilities can play in conservation. Animesh.
Yeah, so I am Animesh. I'm from Pench Tiger Reserve. I'm the field biologist. Sir was one of my senior most boss, and I was not expecting him to be on my call, so I was little nervous. I have no questions. I just have to tell what government was doing in terms of conservation, where people were concerned about AIT estimations, cat sampling, tourism. So I have been seeing in first handed since past 3 years. So tourism is like a coin, two-sided coin. It has good side, it has bad side. It can be exploited if people wanted to, but good side is local people are very much aware that the tigers around them are like their heritage, so they are very vigilant eyes for us. There have been instances ki the local guides inform us there is some mishap to the animal, and if there is a need for us to intervene, so we take that very seriously. Secondly, AIT and SCAT, as we all know, AIT is going on in the India. Scat sampling has been done, but not for the purpose of counting tigers, but to know their diet and if the wildlife health is very good, because we can't monitor the zoonotical species in the wild. And I would like to tell you guys, not just tigers, herbivores are also being monitored the same way internally. So that is that. For poaching, there is a different wing for Wildlife Crime Bureau. So they are also vigilantly working on it. Deforestation is a thing outside Tiger Reserve, but inside everybody is with strict measures. So tide protection, everybody patrols. Everybody has a task to at least patrol 5 kilometers in the smallest designated area they have been provided. And lastly, somebody was talking about lantana. Lantana, even though it's an invasive species, it holds an ecological value for shelter or hide for the animals. So we don't completely eradicate it. We remove it in patches. It's a ongoing process every year. So we can, create that habitat for their safety as well. Yeah, so this was things I was willing to tell you guys for so long. So government is also doing too many things which are not in limelight, but management efforts are being, represented increasing tiger numbers. So yeah, thank you guys for your time.
It's from Wesley. How can we strike a balance between religious traditions and conservation? For example, in Ahmedabad Tiger Reserve, every year, Saleshwaram Jatara takes place deep inside
Which
the
tiger
core
reserve?
areas.
Sorry, Amrabad.
It's not, I think so. Yes, I think it's misspelled in the text. Placed deep inside the core area, and thousands of tons of plastic waste is collected post the Jatara. Can you please suggest a practical solution?
So many of these tiger reserves do have religious places. Like, for example, in Periyar, we have Ayyappa, Sabrimale also there. So, and I think Siddharth already explained earlier that Amrabad and NSTR Srisalem is there. There are many other religious places. You have to cut across a tiger reserve to reach that place. And it's the civic sense which has to improve in India. That's all. I mean, people, no matter how much we tell them, when the forest road is more than 100 kilometers long, or you're cutting across core tiger reserve, I think people should be aware that they should not stop the vehicle there, they should not have picnics there, and they should drive slowly. They should be careful about the wildlife crossing those roads. And that civic sense has to come into Indian citizens. I think that's the problem. How much can the forest department do?
Thank you, ma'am.
There's a comment from Dr. Usha Lachungpa. She's a conservationist from Sikkim. So if you don't mind, can you please read it out? I can't read it.
Sure. Sikkim people traditionally had a great respect for tigers, calling them Ajota, grandfather tiger. But excitable social media may invite poachers after recent camera traps evidence. On border areas, rapid development for national security is decimating forest habitats, forming tiger corridors. Please comment.
So again, this is another very sensitive topic, the balance between national security and conservation. So again, I think it just requires a set of sensible people who sit and balance it out, what is important and how much is needed. So if at all you need to build a road at the borders, does it have to be a four-lane road, or is it enough that just the military vehicles can go through? So I think there should be check and balances everywhere. We cannot compromise on our security, but at the same time, there are very, very fragile ecosystems in the Himalayas which need to be protected.
Thank you, ma'am.